Hi, this is John Barnes, and you're listening to Cop On.
If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it is almost certain you won't. If you think you'll lose, you are lost, for out of the world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. Hello and welcome to Cop On, you curvaceous butternut. My name's Owen, and those opening lines were from a poem called Thinking by Walter D. Wintle. I wonder what Pep is thinking right now. Surely he must be a little worried, wouldn't you say, having witnessed Jurgen Klopp's relentless Reds rescue victory from the jaws of defeat, thanks to not one but two late goals, thanks to those left-sided wizards, Andy Robertson and Sadio the main man Mané. Here to fillet the flesh of our victory away to Aston Villa, as well as look forward to Genk, not Ghent, please be aware, and the City match, of course, next weekend. I'm delighted to be speaking to Shane in Los Angeles, USA, and Karan in Hyderabad, India. Enjoy. Liverpool somehow have managed to get 3 points, and we now haven't lost in 14 away games in the Premier League. We've won 10, we've drawn 4, and I don't know about you, but I have no idea what I actually did when Mané scored. So I asked my girlfriend, and apparently I ended up doing some kind of weird moves. Apparently I was sort of shuffling around my apartment with knees bent and both arms outstretched in front of my body, doing some kind of weird shuffle. And then I started voguing. Like in the Madonna video. And I don't have much recollection. I remember the ball hitting the net and the way that header sort of, it seemed to take an age before it went into the corner, and I was like, no, it can't be. We can't have scored again. This is unbelievable. And we did score again. Shane, tell us about what were you doing at the final whistle? What was going on for you?
My goodness, I have had an interesting experience with this game. Hi Owen, hi Karen. Thank you for having me on another episode of Cop On. This episode, so unfortunately, due to my lack of what would be the exact word? I guess just attention to detail when it comes to where I need to be at what time in my life, and I actually left my house as soon as we made the subs. When we put on Divock and we put on the Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, I had to leave. At the time, I thought I needed to leave the house, so I switched over to the LFC audio commentary, which, if no one has listened to, is absolutely superb and spectacular, and will absolutely add to any drama that you might be experiencing at the time. So from there on, I was listening at as if it was 1-0, and then I kept hearing the City score, and it just kept ratcheting up, and I don't know, it seemed dismal. It seemed like so dark and dank from us ever pulling out these 3 points. But on the freeway, I was stuck on the terrible one-on-one freeway, bumper to bumper traffic, and directly in front of me, which normally I would think is very obnoxious, but there was a bumper sticker that said, "Always believe." I think it was an advertisement for a Disney experience or something like that, but that was what I held on to while I listened to the goals. I actually haven't even seen the goals back yet. All I've heard is from what the commentators have said about it, that Andy had a really thumping header, from you that Mane's header was glancing, and if my laptop would have started up sooner, I could have seen these great goals, but I just can't believe it. I'm just rambling on at this point, but the game was just absolutely, it was so frustrating. I just can't believe we got that result in the way that we did. I mean, at this point, I'm having a bi-weekly heart attack with this team. But my goodness, this team.
Yeah, great answer. A bi-weekly heart attack, absolutely. They don't know how to do it the easy way, do they, Karen? Where were you watching it? Describe your feelings as that last goal went in.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. We snatched a victory out of a possible draw. It was me and my brother watching in the living room, and while my parents and others were discussing something serious in the bedroom. And um, if you've noticed the celebration that after Mane scored the winner, Pep, Linders, and Klopp were like hugging each other, and um, Klopp sort of carried Pep on his hips, and it was like such a precious moment. It was almost like that at home, except I was on top of my brother, and he was finding it hard to breathe because he couldn't handle my weight. So it was amazing. I mean, after we scored the equalizer, I was like, I kept saying this in my head that our identity is intensity, and I was thinking about Pep Linder's press conference before the Arsenal game. I mean, that was such a moving press conference. You get so inspirational and motivated listening to that. And I was just thinking about it. I was thinking about those strong words, and I was trying to relate it to today's game. Except there are different players compared to the previous game. But I mean, wow, what a game! We never do it easy, but we do it the LFC way, intensity.
Absolutely, intensity. I hope your brother's okay now. You didn't just crush him too badly, but that's that's an excellent reaction to just, I don't know, sit on your brother. Brilliant, entirely justifiable. But I want to talk about Sadio Mane a bit more, because during this match, I'm sure, Shane, you watched most of it until the first substitution, so that was on the 64th minute, and in those 64 minutes nothing was quite going right, was it? We were making a lot of the play. We ended up with 25 shots in that match. I think we deserved to win, but Sadio Mane, he was being whacked and pushed and kicked. He actually got booked for being kicked in the box, where we've seen penalties given for less. He still had the resolve and the guts and the strength to keep on going. And it was a marvellous performance. I just said in my Blood Red podcast review that I think we should just make him the king of everything. We should dissolve all the borders and all the world and make him the king of it all. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm actually picking out my Sadio Mane tattoo on where it's going to be on my body right now. He is such I don't want to use a cliche for a game changer, but that's what he is. He's the big man in the big moment, and he can create such goals that can come out of nothing with and these glancing headers. He does it all the time. I don't know anyone else on our team that can score more headers than Sadio Mane, and I completely agree with you. Up until the 64th minute in those subs that I was watching, yeah, the game was absolutely infuriating. I mean, in the second half alone, we had 72% possession to their 28. We had 20 of those shots. You mentioned 25 shots. 20 of those came in the second half alone. 5 on target, 7 off target, 8 blocked. These stats are coming from SofaScore.com, by the way. But yes, I just could not believe the match had turned that the way it had. And I don't like to bring up refereeing a lot, but my goodness, yeah, Sadio Mane got a yellow card for being kicked. But not only that, I don't know where you guys stand on this VAR decisions, but I completely disagree with them. I mean, if you're going to have the Aston Villa goal stand, if that is not offsides, then I don't know how in the heck Bobby Firmino's goal, his equalizer, how you can take that back. It's so infuriating. I just couldn't make sense of the VAR decisions there. It just seemed like we weren't getting any calls going our way, but my goodness, do we never give up.
Well, interestingly, the Premier League official Twitter account have put, and this is not a joke, this is not The Onion, they have actually put that Bobby Firmino's armpit was offside in that moment. And I find that pretty funny now that we've won the match, but had we not won the match, it would have, I don't know, I'd probably just be vomiting into the toilet at that tweet as we speak. Wouldn't be able to, do this podcast. But yeah, VAR was, there were a couple of things. There was also a handball that we could have had that we didn't. And the referee, I was speaking to a football professional about English referees, and he didn't know his name, Jonathan Moss. He just said, I don't like that fat one. Well, he didn't use exactly the word, the fat one, but, he didn't like the large referee, the one who can't move. And he meant Jonathan Moss, because he's a bit of a comedian, isn't he, in terms of being one of these select bands of elite referees that the Premier League call themselves. Because yes, it was a joke, but I didn't want to spend too much time on that, because we could talk about that for ages. What I'd rather focus on, Karen, is the positives of this, and one of the big ones is Manchester City, how they are feeling now, because on 85 minutes, I don't know what commentary you had on where you were watching it, but there was the news came through that Kyle Walker had scored for Manchester City. They turned it around to 2-1. We were losing 1-0 at that moment, and I was thinking, I'm sure Pep was thinking, and City fans were thinking, that's the gap reduced to 3 points, and then next week Man City could overtake Liverpool at the top of the Premier League, but now it's 6 points. And Manchester City, this result has got to heap the pressure on them, on Pep, on everything. How do you think City will be feeling now, Karen?
Well, it wasn't easy for both the teams to, win comfortably in this game week. Both of our teams struggled to, snatch a victory. But I think at that point when City were winning and we were 1-0 behind, I was thinking, okay, we can handle the loss. We can win against City next weekend and, keep that lead going on. It will be 3 points. So I'll take that. And at the reverse fixture, when we play them at Etihad, I think we can take another 3 points. So these 6 points will be crucial if we are to stay ahead of them at the top of the league. So I was thinking about these two games rather than what's going to happen if we're gonna, what will happen if the gap closes and the reaction, blah blah blah. But I was actually also thinking about Leicester, because if City had lost this game, then Leicester would pile pressure on them, for the second spot. And I was thinking about a lot of things. But then that magical moment came when Robertson scored, and that was a thundering header. I mean, what a goal. Fantastic ball from Mané, and another header from Mané to snatch the victory. And I was like, you know what, all those thoughts can just go away. We are 6 points clear again. We'll be 9 clear if we win in the next weekend, and we can also win against Etihad, against City at the Etihad, and it will be 12 points. So that's great, and we shouldn't lose those 12 points, because if something we have to learn this season from the last is when we had a huge points gap, we had few unfairly bad results, and that gap came closer and closer until finally City won with 1 point. So if we have to learn something this season, is to make sure that we have that gap throughout the season. We won't be running away to win the league this season, but if we have to win, we have to be lucky in games like this. We have to keep the lead going, whether it be 6 points or 7, 8, 4. It's okay as long as we have the lead and we pile pressure on them that we are winning every game. We're not going to drop points. So if you want to win the league, you have to be better than us.
Well, yeah, but Karen, surely we'll drop points somewhere along the way. Somewhere where it isn't expected, like City have already done with Norwich. I mean, surely we'll drop some more points, won't we?
Yeah. I'm not denying that, but we have to we have to play our absolute best game week and week out, and it's not going to be easy. So even if we do drop some points, like we did against United, we need to be brave enough to, fight back in the next game and get 3 more points rather than dropping more points. So if you recollect all our draws last season, what I wanted to say is that what we can learn from last season compared to this season is that when we were dropping points in certain games where we could have won easily or perhaps late, we can we can manage to win the points before rather than winning late or something like that. We need to make sure that we don't drop points, and if we do in certain game week, we need to bounce back the next week and maintain that lead, maintain that pressure, because the those results were unfair to us. We could have won some of those games, and if we had, we would have walked away with the lead, but that didn't happen. So just to avoid that, we need to make sure that even if we do, we need to take it bravely and come back stronger next week.
Yeah, well, it's fair enough. It's a very, very good answer. Very nicely reasoned opinion there. Shane, what do you think about this? About Manchester City and how they'll be feeling, and where this result leaves us now.
Well, I don't think any of this is good for Pep Guardiola's hairline. I bet you that he can keep the stress, the cortisol levels that man must be experiencing must be absolutely through the roof. I mean, what else does he need? He has all the money in the world. He has all the talent in the world. I mean, what else does he need to beat Liverpool? And I think we just have that intangible extra thing about us. But in terms of Manchester City, yeah, I mean, we were kind of in a topsy-turvy, upside-down world whenever it was halftime and Southampton were winning 1-0, and then Aston Villa were winning 1-0, and it just seemed like, maybe Liverpool and City will both drop all the points. But sure enough, you kind of always felt like City were going to be able to pull at least 2 back, and that they did. But, oh my goodness. Yeah, I want to say they're not feeling good. They're not feeling great about it. They know there's nothing they can really do to stop us in terms of, well, let me rephrase that. How did Aston Villa do such a good job of just stopping our attacks? Was it the fact that maybe we weren't exactly clinical in the final third? Did we waste opportunities? Did we just not have some finishing touch about us? Did we put on our shoes the wrong way? Did we tie our laces incorrectly? Because looking here at the stats according to sofascore.com, I mean, we had 631 passes to their 227. We had 530 of those were accurate. We had 29 long balls out of 58 with a 50% accuracy rating. We won 54 duels. We won 22 aerials. I mean, it seemed like we completely dominated that match. But how did they prevent us from getting to the back of the net on such a frequent occurrence?
Well, it's a very interesting question, but for me, I think it's just very simple. We didn't have our shooting boots on, as the cliche goes. I mean, we wellied things over the bar. There was a lack of composure in front of goal. Sometimes there was some excellent play, like there was a brilliant save Tom Heaton did at the back post from a Mané header, and it's a brilliant question. But I just think it's just a lack of composure, really. I mean, They defended, reasonably well. I thought Tyrone Mings had a good game. They did well to keep Bobby Firmino fairly quiet, but I just think it was an off day. Would you agree with that, Karen?
Yeah, just to add what you pointed out, I think that goal was fairly disallowed. Well, instead of measuring Firmino's armpit, why can't you measure his wrist? Because I think his wrist was in line with Ming's knees. So I think that should be the point where you check for offside, isn't it? But I think apparently they were checking for his armpit. I don't know why. But just to add to why why we were not at our best today was we were not clinical in our final third. If you want to be clinical in the final third, it's important to have possession in that area. it's not just about going forward, attacking, putting crosses, and scoring goals. It's also important to maintain possession over there, to control the game, to dominate the flow. And despite having 47 touches in the opposition box throughout the game, and we had about 17, I think, yes, 17 in the first half compared to 7 to them. And finally, they had 13 touches compared to 47. So I think their game plan was, we might not have a lot of chances tonight. All we have to do is sit back, break on the counter, and just be as effective as we can be. And I think the goal, as far as I've seen, that all the other players were offside except the player who scored. Um, he was I think he was right onside, or maybe I haven't seen it correctly, but I think that is debatable whether it should have been ruled out or whether it should have stood. Um, and also Sadio Mane, there was definitely some contact on his ankle, but did he fall down too soon, or was there enough contact to actually chip him down? So that's another debate. But as far as I know, that despite having 25 attempts, six on target, and with 75% possession, I think we should have been more clinical.
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree. That's what I'm saying. But but just I don't know. It's still sinking in that we managed to win. It's an absolutely incredible result, and a person who played a big part in it, as as well as Sadio Mane, was Andy Robertson, who was up and down his line all day, didn't give up, and also Trent, who didn't give up, and Trent Alexander-Arnold was making his 100th appearance for the club, and I thought he was super. It was an absolutely super performance by him. What can you say about Trent, Karen?
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. But another reason that I forgot to mention is that in the first half, they didn't provide us the width. I think they set up the team in such a way that we were finding it hard to create width for us, because in our 2-3-5 attacking system, width from the fullbacks is the key. So we were not successfully doing that. But then, as the game went on in the second half, I saw glimpses of making those the width, and I could see totally when we made those changes, bringing Oxlade and Origi, because these players can create width for us, and they did exactly that, and that led to both the goals. Even though it was late, it should have come earlier, but I'm just glad we scored. And speaking about Trent, I think he's absolutely amazing. He's the fourth youngest player to reach 100 appearances for the Reds, and I think it sets a good example for the academy players who featured in the Carabao Cup last week in the weekend, in midweek. That if you show the determination and skill to play for the first team, Klopp is definitely going to select you, and he's going to give you a chance. So he not only sets the example for these young academy players, but all the right backs in the world, that you can be the best, like I am.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. He dominated his right hand side, Trent. He had 3 key passes in the match. 64 passes in total, 79.7% pass accuracy. He had 20 crosses, which is amazing, in 90 minutes, and he was just a danger. And those crosses were pretty well defended, but he was, I don't know, his touch was really good. There was one moment where he slipped, which almost let Villa in for a goal, but that would have been really harsh on him, because he was absolutely superb. Andy Robertson had one shot, or one header you could say, and 1 on target and 1 goal. Absolutely clinical from him, but defensively he made a couple of tackles. No interceptions by Robertson, but 4 clearances, whereas Trent had 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 2 clearances. It's a joy to watch our fullbacks. We talk about them a lot, but we can just keep talking about them, can't we, Shane? Because they're beautiful to watch and so important.
Completely correct. They absolutely can keep us in a game. They can change the match for us whenever the minutes are dying off, like we saw today. You listed a bunch of great stats there, and yeah, there's just, I mean, also noticing that Trent Alexander-Arnold, he had, I believe he had 3 shots total, and but yeah, he was. I just, even when our front three are not coming together as fluid or as fluent as that we would like them to, as we're used to seeing, when Mo Salah is having kind of an iffy day, whenever he only has 4 shots, one of which is on target, where he's dispossessed, or he has, I believe it says, UNS touches, which is a statistic listed for bad control. He's listed to have 3 of those. So even when statistically and on the pitch visually, Mohamed Salah or Bobby are not exactly putting away those chances that we can create, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson can really, really change the game for us. It just feels so dangerous anytime they get the ball. I mean, there was a couple times I saw Trent get it and take it past 3 people as he makes a diagonal run in towards the box. They're just so exciting. They're so electric. There's nobody else that really plays exactly like them as well as they do. Yeah, I could just go on forever. Do we have a Trent song yet as fans? Do we have a Trent song?
There's one, the Scouser in the Team, I believe it's called. But yes, I'll have to learn the lyrics because unfortunately, we don't get to go to the matches, do we? But we'll have to learn, or maybe I'll just write another one and sing that one and write ballads, because this is what where the troubadours came from. The idea of the 12th century French romantics, traveling around singing love songs. I think I might do that after this season if we do win the league. I'll just travel around with my guitar singing love songs about the mighty Reds. One little thing though that I wanted to bring up is the fact that now we haven't kept a clean sheet since beating Sheffield United away 1-0 with that famous deflected goal on the 28th of September. So that's more than a month and 7 matches since then that we haven't kept a clean sheet. Is there anything to worry about, Karen?
Yes, I think I would like to point 2 things that kind of worries me. Also, before I speak about it, I just wanted to mention that in this first game, Trent created 7 big chances, and I think this season he's more effective than Robertson. So I think I expected more of that from him this game. But yeah, speaking about the clean sheets, 2 things worry me. One is when we have a high line against a set piece, like the goal they scored today, there are some players, I don't know whom to pick out, but they just switch off at the end moment, and the opposition have a really good chance to score, and that piles a lot of pressure on Alisson to save them. That is one thing. Second is that if you recollect the Salzburg game, Van Dijk switched off on 2 of those occasions, and we conceded 2 goals. So I think it's when one of our defenders switch off, it's when they attack that area, and it's being effective this season, because this season neither us nor City are defending like they used to last season. So this is something that we can work on it. And also another thing is, like we've mentioned this several times, that when one of the fullbacks or both of them get caught high up the pitch, they are attacking that area between the fullback and the centre back, and that was evident in the Sheffield United game that they did that a lot in that particular game. So these 2-3 things worry me, and if we can work on that, we can find a way to provide some cover or provide a way that we can avoid those attacks. Then I think we should be good going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. What's your take on it, Shane? What's been our problem in defence?
I'm so happy you asked me this question. This is something that I was kind of thinking about today, kind of in detail a lot. I'm a little worried that we might have an arrogance problem going through our defense and the way that we organize and we shape ourselves. There's a big drop off in terms of the number of clean sheets, as you mentioned. compared to last year at this point in time in the season. There's something very hard. There was something very galvanizing about our performances defensively last year. And this year, I'm just not seeing it all. I agree with Karen that there are some moments where it seems like we switch off, but I'm starting to think that maybe we have a little bit of a pride problem when it comes to dealing with opposition in our third and how comfortably we can kind of snuff out attacks. Also, I don't want to sound like I'm being too negative, but I am a little bit worried about Alisson. He has not had a clean sheet since he's come back. Honestly, it seemed like he was more self-assured as a goalie keeper than Alisson seems to be right now. And there are a couple of goals, kind of including the one today, where I thought, man, I think Alisson could have made a save on that one. So yeah, I think defensively I'm very worried, and I think it's kind of our Achilles heel right now, between Alisson making sure that he gets his gloves and his head on straight until he feels fully comfortable and fully back in the rhythm. And, you can't really fault him too much when he's out for like 2 months, and he's coming back in and rhythm was disturbed and everything else. But I don't know. I'd like to see Van Dijk. Van Dijk steps up. I'm almost kicking myself saying that I want Van Dijk to stand up in some of the situations, but I see this miscommunication happen between our midfielders and our defensive line, and I see balls that go through. I see players getting in way of players, and it seems like we commit a high number of individual errors, and they can steal the ball from us and then make something happen in our third, and that's happening with teams. Not just Aston Villa, but that's happening with teams across the board. So yeah, I am a little bit worried.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. I'm not sure where I stand on it. I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned an arrogance problem. There is something, maybe slightly that, and Karen mentioned before, switching off. There is maybe they're linked somehow. But you're right also to say that we're not being too negative. I mean, we are, top of the league and stuff, but we have been giving away chances. After just a few minutes today, Aston Villa had a corner, and Hendo and Trent were at the back post, and neither of them were really watching, and Villa had 2 men at the back post who were unmarked, and luckily the ball didn't quite land for either of the Villa players, and it went out, I think, for a goal kick. But a better pass then, and that would have been 1-0 to Villa. And just a few minutes after, when the free kick was being taken, I noticed that Henderson was marking 2 people at the back post, just him, and I was, shouting at the screens, going, be careful, because there were lots of people at the front post, but Hendo alone at the back post, and that's why that's why Trézéguet was able to ghost in and just onside, but nevertheless to ghost in. I wouldn't necessarily blame Alisson for that. I don't think when you're that close and he made a good connection with the ball, I don't think you can really blame the keeper. And Alisson did a good thing a bit later in the match as well, when he came out and he spread himself when their number 17, Houlihan, I think his name is, and Alisson spread himself really well, and he forced him into making a pass, and then Virgil could clear it. Like, they're still really good, really good. But yes, I'm inclined to agree that we're sort of switching off a bit, and it's maybe a little bit of overconfidence and miscommunication. So footballing perfection. You could talk about 11-0, Liverpool's biggest ever win, and that was very close to footballing perfection. But even then, does it really exist? Has it ever existed, footballing perfection? And that's what we should strive for. So yes, the defence can possibly do a little bit better. But again, staying with the positives, Andy Robertson was very good. Trent was very good. Our midfields that we're talking about, every week today, he went for Lallana, Henderson and Wijnaldum to start with. What did you make of them, Karen, that midfield? How did they do today? And then, when Ox came on later.
I think it was an interesting lineup in the midfield to start the game. I was excited to see who will play in the number six role. Will it be Lallana or Henderson? But I think Lallana did well. He was not swamped like he was against Arsenal in midweek, but he had a slow start, but then he really picked it up. And he started to push the game forward, trying to influence the game from that role. Um, and Henderson, I think he had some very bad touches, and he put the team in danger in that situation where you mentioned that Allison had to rush to scrub the ball again back towards him, and Van Dijk to make that clearance. Otherwise, Hurahan would be through on goal with an open goal basically. So yeah, I think some of the moments from Henderson were nervous. His crosses weren't really effective, but they can be better. But he just needs to loft them a bit higher, um, in my opinion, and a bit further. So that was okay. And I think I expected Oxlade-Chamberlain to start because he's been impressive since his return. Um, and even in midweek, I think he was very, very influential. So I really thought that he should start the game um, rather than Wijnaldum. But I was happy with him as well. I mean, for most of the parts, I think I couldn't really figure out what exactly is he trying to, affect the game. But I think the midfield that was a very tricky part. It was nervous. Uh, it was a nervous game from them, but I think after the substitution, that's when I really saw the effectiveness from midfield. So I think Klopp should really give Chamberlain a start ahead of Lallana or maybe Henderson in the next game. I think against Schenk we should go for Fabinho, Oxlade, and probably Wijnaldum. Or you can even start Keita for that in that sense, because I think against City he's going to start Fabinho, Henderson, and Wijnaldum like we always do. Um, so maybe he can rotate these two midfielders and give others a chance. But the overall performance from midfield was, I think, I should say a bit higher than average, but not great.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm just looking at some stats here. Adam Lallana had 5 tackles, 1 interception, and 1 clearance. So a lot of tackles there. Henderson had 2 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 2 clearances. And Jorginho Wijnaldum had 1 tackle, 1 interception, and no clearances. In terms of distribution as well, Gini Wijnaldum had 44 passes with a 91% passing accuracy. Henderson had 95 passes with 82.1% passing accuracy, and Adam Lallana 86 passes with an 88.4% passing accuracy. So statistically, they did all right, didn't they, Shane?
Yes, I was going to bring up those exact stats. Yeah, there were times when it seemed like the struggles weren't there with the passing. They were able to move the ball, they were able to push it upfield, but it was just in terms of, it seemed retaining position seemed to be the struggle today in the midfield, and that's usually not the case with Jordan Henderson and Gini Wijnaldum. And yes, we did have 75% of the total possession in the game, but it just seems like they could disrupt those. I know people seem to be upset about Adam Lallana in the 6th position. I would have been interested to see how he would have done in the number 8 position, going up the wing on Trent's side with Jordan Henderson maybe filling the role of the holding 6th position. But I don't know if they obviously, Klopp and everyone else runs that, and I know Jordan Henderson was in the 6th position for the majority of 18 months prior, and he's doing so much better in the number 8 position. But I'm wondering if they could have had a tactical switch there, and if it would have maybe unlocked the door for us, so to speak. Let's see, what other stats did I want to bring up? Yeah, I just thought Let me rephrase it to a question. What did you think of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's contribution into the midfield as soon as he came on, or I guess he came on from Mo Salah at the 64th minute? Do you think he was able to change things up for us?
Yeah, Chamberlain. He had that moment, just after he came on, he had about 25 shots. It kept rebounding out to him, and he kept whacking it on target. I thought that was really good. And positive. Again, he's on the front foot. He takes people on. He dribbles. Defensively is the only thing. In terms of discipline, tactical positioning, but I think that's something that he's getting better and better at. That's just my opinion. I don't know if I've got anything to particularly back it up, but I thought, Chamberlain, he looks very exciting, and I think he's going to be probably England's best midfielder come the end of the season, because fingers crossed he stays fit. He's got all the talent in the world, his close control, but this determination that he shows. He seems like such a good teammate. He's not overly selfish, but he's dangerous. 3 goals in the last 2 matches as well. I thought it was another positive display, and he made an impact off the bench. He could have scored again. What do you think, Karen?
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Like I've said before, he's been absolutely incredible since he's back, and he just turned around the game completely. As soon as him and Origi were brought on, we switched to a rather 4-2-3-1/4-1-4-1 formation. So we bombarded our forward players when they were just sitting back and happy to break on the counter. So I think that really worked, because before that they looked very comfortable sitting back and defend. But then as soon as we brought those changes, it became a little bit difficult for them to sort of mark the players and make play their usual game like they've been playing at that until the substitutions were brought on. And if you just notice that in the final moments of the game, when Mané scored during that set piece, usually in those moments it's mostly the keeper's call how he wants his players to mark the opposition players, and that turned out to be completely wrong, because Mané had a lot of space to to head the ball. But that was just absolutely incredible. He's facing the ball, and the goal is behind him. So he had to be very accurate for that header to go in, and he did exactly that. His movement was so smart that he just brought the players out from the position, and he just had to head it home, and that's what he did. There were so many moments that you can pick out from even Oxlade-Chamberlain, is that he's bringing the players out from their natural position and dribbling past them, pick out the players in the far side, creating width for our fullbacks, and also getting some fantastic shots in the box, one of which is debatable for a handball, but I don't know. In some cases it will be given, some cases it won't, but that's okay. But he was really influential, and when Keita was brought on late into the game, I think that was something that I could find stability in the midfield. Even though I was very happy to see Lallana, getting those tackles and interceptions in and holding the midfield, whereas the other 2 players were struggling a little bit. Even though I was happy with Henderson in some moments, I wasn't quite sure about Wijnaldum. It was not one of his best games, but Chamberlain, I think he was just the game changer, if I had to say.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see him back, isn't it? It's brilliant. Well, just before we move on, I do want to talk about other things. It's just happy joy time with Liverpool at the moment. But if you have to pick a man of the match, it's got to be either Mané or Trent, hasn't it? Shane, even though you missed the last, or you were listening to the radio for the last part of the match, who would you say was your best player today?
Oh, yes. So just based on listening and then within the context of the game, yeah, I would love to give my man of the match to Sadio Mane. I know according to WhoScored.com, I believe they gave the man of the match to Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I might be mistaken about that. But I would have to say you have to give it to Mane for coming out with a little bit of magic when we absolutely needed it. I mean, he's always there. He's always going forward, and he seems to not let. How do I exactly phrase this? If a chance for him goes awry, it seems like we're way more upset about it than he ever is. You know, if he skies one over the bar, it doesn't feel like it means a single thing to him. Where us, we're always writhing in agony whenever he puts one wide. But it seems like he just forgets about it, wipes it from his mental slate, and goes into a fresh mode of hypnosis before he gets control of the ball again. And so, yeah, I'd have to say he gets my man of the match.
Solid answer. What about you, Karen? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. My top three players are Mane, Trent, and Lallana. Mane deserves man of the match award, even though Trent got it in WhoScored.com, as he's just mentioned. So, also another thing that even Lovren could be a contender if Wesley didn't give him a headache, because I think he was targeting that the gap between Lovren and Van Dijk, and if Lovren had managed to just be solid throughout the game and give him such a headache that what should I do, how should I move to score goals, etc., etc., I think even Lovren would be a contender. But unfortunately, he isn't, and it's Mane, Trent, and Lallana for me.
Yeah, there were times when Lovren looked a bit shaky, but I loved the way that he, like the rest of the team, just carried on, got on with it, refused to lie down and, get up and try again if it didn't quite go his way. Lovely attitude from Dayan there, absolutely superb. Right, well, I want to move on into, more general overview of the season type thing. I mean, obviously we're top of the league. We're going into a Champions League match, but we just played the Carabao Cup, which my girlfriend incorrectly called the Koala League because she couldn't remember the real title, but I think that's even better. We'll call it the Koala League because it was 5-5 against Arsenal. Cometh the hour, cometh the div in the last minute. We didn't even want to play with this fixture schedule. We had Keita, Lallana, Oxlade-Chamberlain midfield, Curtis Jones coming off the bench, and playing brilliantly before stroking home the winning penalty. That was crazy, wasn't it? That was nuttier than peanut butter, wasn't it, Shane?
My goodness, yeah. I was still recovering from that match before today's match, and here it is again. Like I said earlier, the bi-weekly heart attack. It doesn't matter what lineup Klopp puts out. This team just never knows when they're beaten. They just never know when to give up, and thank God, I love them for it. It ended up turning out to be one of the most entertaining games of the season so far. Just when you think you're about to watch this kind of a dreary old EFL match that's going to be frustrating and all this other stuff, it's lo and behold, it's a goal fest. And I would say, it left a lot to be desired from some goalkeeping. But my goodness, the strikes, it almost made no sense, the ridiculous strikes we were getting to put in from Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, from Divock, and then Willock was able to score an absolute screamer over Kelleher. And my goodness, just for it to come down to Curtis Jones, the Scouser, the local lad, just for it to all be on his shoulders. And I was something that just adds a little notch to the story is when Klopp was talking about in his post-match press conference how whenever he sets the penalty lineup that they had Divock going last, but they had actually I guess without asking Klopp, switch the order because Curtis Jones wanted that responsibility on his shoulders, and man, did he put it away. I don't know if I've ever seen a better penalty shootout from Liverpool. Also, an interesting stat that came out of the shootout, something that kind of blew my mind. This is according to thisisanfield.com. Adam Lallana has been a part of, I believe, 7 total Liverpool penalty shootouts, and he has scored in 6 of them consecutively, which gives him like an all-time record, if I'm not mistaken. And because Liverpool, in their total amount of history, their total history starting from 1892, have only been involved in 16 total competitive penalty shootouts, and 7 of them belong to Adam Lallana. So I just thought that was just a funny stat to come out of it. But it's just a weird stat that comes out of a weird game. And it's like if you step on a banana peel and did a complete backflip and land on your feet. I mean, there we are, standing 5-5 at full time with Divock putting it in.
Great image. A great image, yeah. Karen, it's fun, this Koala League, this Carabao Cup, isn't it? Did you manage to watch it in midweek?
It was such a crazy game. Everyone was sleeping and I was the only one watching. And as soon as it was, we were 1-0 ahead, I was very happy that these lads are doing well, and 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. I was like, oh no, this is happening, this is really happening, I don't want to lose. But the mentality from these kids, oh my god. It was a mixed balance of experienced players versus the youngsters. And these lads just, they gave their everything. And what a way to, close the game with Divock stepping over with a bicycle kick, and Neco Williams with that assist like Jermaine Pennant to Peter Crouch against Bolton Wanderers in 2008, and it was like, oh my god, this is happening again. Peter Crouch that goal. So it was really amazing to watch that game. Curtis Jones, he just changed the game completely. As soon as he was brought on, I had that feeling that we have time. We're gonna get a result out of this. Might even win the game. But I'm really happy that it was 5-5. And just like Shane pointed out, the penalty shootout statistic that Lallana was involved in, I think that's really impressive. I want to see more from these lads, although I want to see Curtis Jones start the game, but I'm not sure who should sit, whether it should be Keita or Ricky or Brewster. I'm not sure, but I want to see Curtis Jones start the game because he's so influential in that role, and he's so talented. It's just amazing to see these kids. And when you see the lineup and when you see Neco Williams in the right back position, you must be thinking that is this kid going to play well? But he was absolutely incredible, wasn't he? And I think I'm so confident to see him play in the next game. If Hoover is back from the international duty, then if Klopp selects Hoover against him, I think that would be, I would feel sad because I want to see more from Neco Williams, and maybe Hoover should wait for his chance. But these young kids are so great.
They are indeed. They are indeed so great. It was a super debut by Neco Williams. I thought, he was up against Saka, who's a, very, very good young Arsenal player, and he, he kept going, put in that assist at the end. Really nice performance. But maybe they could play together, Neco Williams at right back and Hoover at centre back, because the first team will be away at the World Club Championship. Who knows what's going to happen, but all shall be revealed. Let's move on to the next match, which is Genk on Tuesday at Anfield. In terms of starting lineup, Karen, you've already mentioned that you would, quite like to see Keita and Ox in midfield. Let's just, think about this. So we're going to all go, presumably, with Alisson in goal. But then at centre-backs, what are we thinking? Are we thinking Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez? Trent and Robbo, or will we bring in Milner, maybe put Gomez at right back, or just to give our fullbacks a rest for Man City? Oh, there's a lot to think about, isn't there, Shane? What would your lineup be for Genk?
Yes, this is a very, very tricky selection. I really do think Klopp has his work cut out for him. Due to our prior results in the group stage so far in the Champions League, we kind of really leave ourselves no choice but to go out and grab these 3 points at Anfield for the group. I mean, against Genk, who is perceived to be the lowest in terms of strength in the group, we have to walk away with these 3 points. So I don't think we can have a completely changed side. Maybe sub off Trent and Andy. I'm hesitant to say to not play them, but also at the same time, I want them well rested from Manchester City. They're gonna have to do an awful lot of running for Manchester City. So yeah, I'd have to speculate that it's gonna be Alisson, Joe Gomez, maybe Dejan Lovren with Virgil van Dijk, and then Milner over at left back. For midfield, I would definitely think we need a change to midfield with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Maybe still have Genie in there. Maybe still fit Fabinho in there, or put in Henderson instead. And then for our forwards, I think we absolutely have to rest Mohamed Salah. I mean, just based on how he's been coming back from these little ankle niggles that he's had. I mean, it just goes to show you, back before the international break, when I can't remember exactly the match. The guy, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Was it Brighton? I can't remember. But whenever he got that salacious, terrible tackle across his Achilles heel, it's really taken its toll. And I still I believe that offense should have been a red card, and it should have been reviewed after the fact, and he should have been given a red card for that and suspended, because it really has. I mean, it was just a nasty, crunching tackle, and Mohamed Salah is still kind of trying to shake it off. So I definitely think he needs to be rested. I don't want him to become a target for any of the Genk defenders, because we really need him at 100% to go up against Manchester City. So yeah, I definitely think this is a moment where we get to see Klopp make kind of the best calls that he will make so far this season, and seeing what he comes out with in the lineup.
Very good answer. Yes, absolutely. We have to rest Salah, don't we, Karen? Would you agree with Shane there in terms of his lineup?
Yeah, just a little bit. Although what I'm thinking is that we should go for Alisson, Trent, Lovren, Van Dijk, Robertson, Keita, Chamberlain, Fabinho, Salah, Mane, and Firmino. And we should sub off Trent, Robertson, and Salah, and bring on Gomez, Milner, and maybe Lallana, or if Elliott is on the bench, whatever, whoever's on the bench, just or Origi, for that sense, just fill up that right flank and rest Salah, because like Shane pointed out, he's playing through the pain barrier, and it's just amazing to see that even though the Meds are not so sure about his fitness, but he says that he's fine and he can play. And he's not just quite found his feet yet, but in few games, I think he will be back to where he was. So we should give these 3 players a rest and prepare them for the City game. But if Klopp decides to even rest Mane, I wouldn't be so disappointed, because against City, if we really need to get a result with Salah not at his best, we need Mane to be at his best. And Mane and Firmino need to be at their absolute best if we have to beat City. If Salah is not, is not having a good game, so I think this should be the lineup according to me. Because if we win against Genk on Tuesday, we'll be with 9 points, and with some sort of a surety that we are going to clear the group either first or second. Because it all depends on how Napoli versus Salzburg plays out. And the last time it turned out, it was a very close game for these 2 sides, and I'm expecting the same for them as well. So despite the result, if we manage to win and be top of the table, I think we should go a bit easy on the last, against Salzburg. Although if Klopp decides not to, then it's okay, whatever it is. But I think we should really focus on City after Genk rather than the next Champions League games. So if I were the manager, that would be my lineup, and I would rest these 3 players, because our fullbacks will be the key to set up a 2-3-5 attacking system. And compared to theirs 2-3-5 system where the wingers sort of create the five attacking players. So I would really hope to see Robertson and Trent getting rested after, say, about an hour after the game, so that they can rest well and they are fresh for the City game.
I see where you're coming from, and I can see Klopp doing exactly that, but I would disagree, because for me, the table at the moment, if the listeners need reminding, is Napoli on 7 points, Liverpool on 6, Red Bull on 3 and Genk on 1. Effectively, we need 4 more points because of the fixtures to be guaranteed a place in the next round. And I think this Genk match is the one match where we can afford to lose. I mean, it's taking a bit of a risk, but I would try to rest more players. I'm not sure exactly who to rest, but I would never start Salah. I would probably rest Firmino as well, because for me he's looked a tiny bit, 0.5% more tired than usual because of all the football he's been playing. And just to make sure he's okay, again, wrap your best players in cotton wool. So yeah, Firmino, Salah, even Fabinho, even Van Dijk, rest them. I would do something like that, because and Trent as well, just because I think we can afford to lose this one. But then after Genk, it's Manchester City next weekend before the international break. How are you feeling, Shane? Optimistic?
I think City are going to absolutely be nervous. I mean, just looking at the start of this window, we were anticipating this window of games so heavily. I mean, with Manchester United, Tottenham, Arsenal in the League Cup, this Aston Villa game, which turned out to be one of the trickiest matches in the whole run of it, just in disguise, Genk, and then also Manchester City with rounding things off. We have come through this period with almost all wins and just one draw at Old Trafford. We are in a great position. I am absolutely ecstatic about the position we're in as we go into this match and this fixture. I was actually kind of worried that we might have dropped 3 points at any point in time. But we haven't, except we only dropped points at Old Trafford. So yeah, I'm just ready for the game. My emotions are going to be all over the place. I'm going to be going up. I'm going to be going down. But we are in the prime position to draw a line in the sand between us and City and extend our point tally to 9 points and really, really, really make a statement for who's going to win the league this season.
9 points would be huge. Is this where the title is going to be won and lost, Karen? I mean, you mentioned you're optimistic before that we can win home and away against City, and I always admire your optimism, Karen. But is this where it's going to be won or lost, the league?
Yes, it looks like a two-way title race again this season, with Leicester looking to apply some pressure. But yeah, if the season, as the new rule states, that if two teams are at the same points at the end of the league, then their head-to-head record will decide who's going to win the league. So I think these two games are the most important, because not only that we want to defeat City and extend the lead, but we also want to pile more pressure upon them. So I think these two games will be one of the most important games we'll play this season, despite how it will turn out in the Champions League and so on. So I'm already looking forward to these two games, and one of them is next weekend, so we should be at our absolute best, don't we?
Oh, wow, yes, we should. I really hope the stars align and we can beat City. I mean, it's going to be I've got goosebumps thinking about it. But, I want to thank you both very, very much. We've got Karan in India, we've got Shane in the United States. Thank you both so much for joining me today to talk about that marvellous very, very important 3 points away from away against Aston Villa. This is not fluky. This is about the 50th last minute win we've had this season already. These relentless Reds, we keep on going. We've got the resolve, we've got the guts, and we can do it, can't we? Thank you so much, Karen, and thank you so much, Shane.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Karen.
So there we are. Thank you so very much for listening. Let me just leave you with a quick reminder that Cop On is a podcast dedicated to you, the dear listener, and our doors are always open if you would like to discuss anything Liverpool related in future episodes. If so, simply sling us a DM on Twitter at Cop On Podcast, or chuck us an email to coponpodcast@gmail.com. For the generous-hearted amongst you, you may also support us via patreon.com/coponpodcast for as little as $1 per month, cheaper than chips, should you be thus inspired. Onwards and onwards for Liverpool into the next week, 2 crucial games, and I can't wait. Up the Reds.